In honor of this video, the brand new Apprentice Saber has been released on theorysabers.com, crafted by TXQ, and I would highly recommend that you choose the Games sound font package, which is created by Kyberphonic, with all of our exclusive, crunchy, beautiful sounds in there to light up that ignition like you have never experienced before. This saber is absolutely phenomenal. It is beautiful. I can't wait to see your guys' reviews. Theorysabers.com, 20% off right now, or buy one, get 2 free beginner sabers. Let's get to the video.
Fulfill your destiny. Theorysabers.com.
Who is stronger, Galen Marek or Starkiller? Now, when we imagine Starkiller versus Galen Marek, we're really asking a question about the duality inside this one character. Because Starkiller and Galen aren't two separate beings in a literal sense, they're two halves of the same man. Starkiller is the code name, the unleashed apprentice Vader crafted in darkness through cloning. Galen Marek is the person beneath the mask, the child taken from Kashyyyk who remembers his father and longs to be something more than a weapon. This fight is then not simply hypothetical spectacle, it's the weapon against the man, the shadow against the soul. To understand the duel, we need to first define who they are in combat terms. Starkiller's lightsaber style is raw aggression. Vader drilled him in Form 5, Demso, the same as Anakin's. The style of domination and power, of offense, hammering blows designed to crush defenses. But Starkiller doesn't stay confined to that. In the Force Unleashed novelization, Sean Williams describes his movements as a storm of silver fire, striking from every angle at once. His improvisation makes him unpredictable. He throws in Ataru-like flips, Juyo's savagery, and reckless maneuvers designed to overwhelm. His blade work is ferocious, chaotic, and backed by devastating bursts of the Force. Galen Marek, by contrast, is not defined by sheer aggression. He is the same duelist in terms of training, but what differentiates him is his restraint. Galen isn't fighting to annihilate, he's fighting to survive, to choose, to reclaim his humanity. That difference matters, because while Starkiller wastes himself in storms of unpredictable slashes and force powers, Galen measures himself, parries when needed, conserves energy. This is kind of the difference like Anakin versus Obi-Wan. His fighting style isn't less deadly, but I would say it's more thoughtful, a little more composed, where Starkiller's strikes are just, hammer and rage. Galen's are deliberate and focused. So when their sabers clash, let's say, Starkiller dominates this opening. It's hands down, I think he would just destroy him in the opening few hits. He comes down like an absolute hammer, every blow designed to just crush. His blade screaming through the air with the fury of someone who knows only how to kill. Whereas Galen absorbs this storm, uses his own training in Demso to meet strike with strike, but already we're starting to see the difference here. Starkiller grows reckless, leaping and spinning wildly, pressing for a fast victory, whereas Galen remains tighter, calmer, waiting for the moment that his shadow overextends or maybe gets tired. Now, the novel hints at this difference. When Starkiller duels Jedi like Shaak Ti, he overwhelms them with sheer ferocity. But when Galen begins to rediscover his conscience, his fighting changes. He hesitates before killing blows. He adopts his strikes for defense. That hesitation, that restraint, is what defines Galen in this matchup. Against his own unleashed self, he endures by not trying to match chaos with chaos. He waits it out more. So in the lightsaber phase of this duel, Starkiller looks unstoppable at first. His blade is everywhere, he's improvising, disorienting his opponent, his speed is enhanced by the Force, but slowly and inevitably, the storm begins to show cracks. Galen survives. He doesn't match the storm in spectacle, but in control. And that's the first sign of how this duel will end. Now, when the sabers are no longer enough, the duel inevitably shifts into the realm of the Force. This is where Starkiller builds his entire legend. His lightsaber combat is lethal, yeah, sure, it's really good, but his Force abilities are what make him infamous. If you've seen any of the cutscenes from The Force Unleashed, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. He is, in every way, literally the Storm Unleashed. Now, Sean Williams' Force Unleashed novelization makes this clear over and over. Starkiller doesn't simply use telekinesis to shove or pull, he reshapes the battlefield. He rips walkways apart, collapses structures, crushes machinery as though it were paper. The signature feat, of course, is dragging a Star Destroyer from the sky that we've all seen. In the text, it isn't formed as simple telekinesis. It's described as a clash of wills, his mind screaming against gravity and roaring engines. The engines screamed in protest, the atmosphere howled, and the ground itself shuddered as the giant craft bucked against his will. Now, no other Jedi or Sith in Legends novels is given a feat framed with that level of sheer destructive scale. Now, you could argue, of course, the thought bomb that Bane used, but I think the Star Destroyer is just, well, visually I feel like it's cooler, but you let me know your thoughts. Now, beyond telekinesis, Starkiller wields force repulse like nobody else that we've seen. These aren't defensive bursts, they are battlefield leveling detonations. Soldiers, droids, and entire squads vanish in white light. Metal and flesh atomized in an instant. His lightning, as well, is absolutely insane, apocalyptic. In The Force Unleashed 2, Williams describes his storms as consuming entire groups of enemies at once, arcs of power spreading out in every direction, leaving only ash and ruin. This is the arsenal that Starkiller brings into the duel. When sabers don't finish it, he tears the world apart. But here is the crucial difference. Galen Marek doesn't wield the Force like that. He can, he has the same training, he has the same potential, and the same connection, but Galen uses it differently. Where Starkiller detonates with repulses, Galen measures his pushes and pulls. Where Starkiller calls down lightning storms, Galen channels smaller bursts, conserving strength. Galen doesn't unleash everything because he isn't fighting to annihilate, he's fighting to endure. And that really changes everything. So because Starkiller's feats are devastating, but they drain him, like when he, after he dragged down the Star Destroyer, he collapsed. After repulses, he staggers, gasping. The novels are consistent that his power comes in bursts, but he cannot sustain it. Every explosion of energy burns through his reserves. Starkiller is a firework. Brilliant in the moment, but it's short-lived. And if you've played the games, you know how fast his force meter drains. Whereas Galen is not wasting any energy. He controls all of his energy. His actions are more deliberate. It's the same relationship we saw in Yoda versus Starkiller. Galen isn't serene like Yoda, but his conscience tempers his rage. His restraint makes him more efficient. And over the course of a battle, efficiency outlasts spectacle. So in the Force phase of this duel, Starkiller dominates as well. At first, the battlefield shakes, rubble is spinning through the air, ripping through land, lightning ignites the skies, repulses tear through stones and boulders, but Galen survives it. He doesn't try to match the spectacle, he sidesteps, he deflects, he weathers it. And as Starkiller grows more desperate, each detonation drains him further and further. And Galen doesn't grow weaker, he remains steady. This leads directly into the heart of the fight, which is the psychological clash between the weapons and the man, which is where I always like to take these fantasy battles into the psychology of them. This is really the most decisive element of any fight, because the difference between them isn't physical at all, especially in this one. They share the same body and the same training and the potential, but what separates them is their identity. Where Starkiller is the weapon that Vader shaped out of trauma and obedience, Galen is the man beneath that, the boy stolen from Kashyyyk, who lost his father, who remembers his father's face, who grows to care for Juno Eclipse, who eventually learns to defy the master that made him. Now, the book describes Starkiller as a storm given flesh, a force of nature, unstoppable for brief, terrifying moments. But that's really the key here, is brief. Because there is no humanity in Starkiller, especially not in the beginning. Whereas Galen, in the first game, his entire arc is rediscovering the human being that Vader tried to bury. He remembers his father's defiance. He builds bonds with Juno and Kota. He questions his purpose. Whereas the clone wrestles even harder with identity. Am I the original or just a shadow? But even that doubt shows humanity. And Galen's strength isn't that he's more powerful than Starkiller, because I truly don't think that he is. It's that he knows why he's fighting. He fights not to obey, but to choose. Now, if he were to choose the dark side, I do believe he would be just as powerful as Starkiller, because I do believe that the dark side does unlock different abilities that will inevitably be stronger. I mean, like, for example, Sidious was stronger than Yoda. He beat him in a fight, and Yoda knows this, and he accepts it. It's in the novel, and we see it in the film. But Sidious was like almost 1/20th the age of Yoda. Maybe like 1/16th or 17th or something like that, which is insane. I do believe the dark side does unlock new abilities, and even Nick Gillard said this as well when he made his power ranking system, that when Anakin switched to the dark side, he bypassed level 8 out of 10. He went from 7 to 9. Starkiller's psychology will push him to unleash everything as fast as possible. He'll burn through himself. He fights like every battle must be ended instantly, with overwhelming destruction. And this kind of recklessness drains him, and worse, it makes him very predictable. You can push his buttons easily, whereas Galen's psychology makes him more patient, using his storm more carefully, conserving his energy, picking his moments, much like Obi-Wan versus Anakin. Starkiller is the weapon, whereas Galen Marek is more like the man who is steadier than the weapon. This is why I think Galen ultimately defeats Starkiller in this fantasy battle, not because his strikes are harder, or lightning is brighter, or his repulses are stronger. Starkiller actually outshines him in pretty much every feat possible, but because Galen has an anchor, which is identity, and Starkiller doesn't, Starkiller collapses when his storm burns out, where Galen endures because he is the one who refuses to be only a weapon. So in the end, after the storm is weathered, Galen Marek will take the final kill on Starkiller. Now, I know a lot of you might think that Starkiller is more ferocious and he would easily beat Galen Marek, but I don't think so. I think in the long game, if Starkiller doesn't obliterate him within the first, half a second or so, then Galen Marek is going to get used to the fight, and he's going to know exactly what he has to do, which is to just weather the storm. That's why, for example, Obi-Wan was able to beat so many ruthless opponents, including Anakin Skywalker, who was stronger than him. It's because he was patient, and he was a master of Surisu. He was the master of defense. Let me know who you want me to pit together next in a fantasy battle of who was stronger, who would win in a fight. Please leave a like on this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one, right here on Star Wars Theory. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.